Good afternoon. I'm Dior Cotton and I'm here today to teach Tori Brown how to make the perfect pancake. Now let's talk a little bit about why you should even listen to me about pancakes. One thing, I have two beautiful daughters and they both love pancakes. Now, I'm a busy mom and like everyone else, when I first started making pancakes, I made them using a mix. And then the more that I traveled and the more that I ate good foods, when I made those pancakes in the morning and I used that chemical mix, I tasted that plastic taste in every bite. And so the more that I started baking, the more I decided that I would start making pancakes from scratch. I already had the flour, the eggs, and the milk on hand. So today, what I'm gonna do is teach a friend of mine, Tori.
I don't know how to make pancakes.
How to make pancakes. So the first thing I wanna highlight for you guys is the ingredients. So whenever you make pancakes, you're gonna have your dry ingredients, with your flour, baking powder, salt, sugar. I use a little bit of cornstarch to give it a little cake flour texture, a little bit more chew. And then for our wet ingredients, we're gonna have milk, vanilla extract, butter, and eggs. And a secret ingredient that I'll show you in a little bit. But first, I wanna share with Tori the pancake recipe that is the basis for this.
All right.
Now, the one thing about this pancake recipe, it makes a ton of pancakes. It serves 6, so that's about 18 pancakes. We don't need to make that many pancakes today.
Okay.
So what I've done is I've taken all of these ingredients and I've divided them in half. So where it calls for 3 cups of flour, I have 1/2 cup of flour. If it calls for 3 tablespoons of butter, I've got 1.5 tablespoons of butter, and so on and so forth. So first what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix together the dry ingredients in a large bowl. So first we're gonna take our flour, our baking powder, salt, sugar, and this is just a little bit of cornstarch that I mentioned. Cornstarch is an ingredient in cake flour, so adding it into regular flour will give it some of that chew and that fluffiness that you get from cake flour. So we're gonna blend all of these ingredients together, and when they're fully incorporated, we're gonna start on our wet ingredients. Now we do this for 2 reasons. The first reason is, if you didn't do that first and you added all your wet ingredients in, there would be pockets where those dry ingredients weren't incorporated appropriately. So mixing them before you mix in your wet ingredients is important. Next, we're gonna do our wet ingredients. So we're gonna start off with our milk.
Oh, so you mix 2 different bowls. Like, I don't start dumping that up in here.
Exactly.
Got it.
So you're gonna pull your milk, your egg. This is vanilla. Smell that.
Lovely.
I think we have a visitor. Come on, little lady. In here, we have honey. What's honey taste like, Lexi?
Honey.
Is it sour or is it sweet?
Sweet.
Sweet. So we're gonna put a little honey in here, and I'll tell you why I like to use a little honey. And this is not in the recipe, so it's an important variation for me to call out. I like to use the honey because with the salt and the baking powder, it can get a little bit acidic. So by adding in the honey, you get a different, it kind of gives it, balances that out. Now, Alexis, are you gonna come back and help me when it's time to flip them? Okay, now you go ahead and you go downstairs.
Bye.
Now, the one good thing about making pancakes is it is something that your kids can help you with. It helps with math skills. We're talking about fractions. We're talking about measuring. And then also helps from a chemistry perspective. If you think about the fact that we're putting salt and baking powder in, there's a chemical reaction there that causes the pancake to rise.
Right. So now you're getting all your wet ingredients incorporated.
Yes, so I'm gonna fully incorporate those wet ingredients, just like we did the dry ingredients. And now when we have that egg and milk mixture combined, we are going to put it into the dry ingredients. I'm gonna pour it all in at one time, make like a little well. And the important part about pancakes, it's not like a cake. So a cake, you wanna beat it and beat it and beat it and incorporate a lot of air and bubbles into it. The more you do that with a pancake, the less fluffy it'll be, and it'll also get chewy, think like bagel, like donut. We want this to stay fluffy, so we want to mix it until it's just incorporated and it has a little bit of lumpiness to it.
Well, that might be one of my problems when I'm making pancakes.
You don't want to mix it too much. You want it to barely be incorporated. And if you like a thick, dense pancake, that's one thing. But I do like my pancakes to be a little bit thinner. And I'm seeing here that even though the recipe calls for a cup of milk, I might want to add a little bit more. So I'm just going to add another little dash of milk to make this just a little bit thinner. That maybe is more than a dash. We'll call that 3 tablespoons of milk.
So, along with the recipe, you have to kind of play it by the eye.
Yes.
You have to eyeball it.
Yes.
Okay.
And the more that you make them, the more that you'll figure out what makes sense for you. Because there's some things that you just can't change once you've already started the recipe. For example, the baking powder. That's already in there. So I used 1.5 tablespoons of baking powder, which will give you a higher pancake. If you want a smaller pancake, you can use
baking powder.
Exactly. So you'll find out as you start making your pancakes every Saturday morning with your family.
Can I check the weight on that? I just kind of want to see how this feels.
There you go. And while you do that, I'm going to go ahead and get our skillet going, which I probably should have done before. I'm using, so you can kind of see here, this is a pretty big Lodge cast iron skillet. If you don't have a Lodge cast iron skillet, it's a great investment. Lasts for years and years and years. I've had this one for about 10 years. And the one thing I'll say is you never try to really wash it. You want to keep some of that seasoning on. If for some reason your skillet has gotten gray, gotten rusted, any of that, scrub it out with a little bit of steel mesh, rinse it clean, coat it in oil, and then bake it for 400 degrees upside down, and it'll rejuvenate it. You want your skillet to always be black and shiny. So I'm using full butter, real just normal full fat salted butter, and I'm melting that butter in the skillet, and I want it to get pretty hot before I start incorporating the pancakes. And what we're going to use a 1/2 cup measure to make uniform sized pancakes. Okay, so now that our butter has fully melted, we are going to pour the batter into the pancake. You'll notice that that has a nice sizzle. That lets us know that the skillet has gotten hot enough. And so now we're just going to wait a minute while the pancake gets completely done. And I'm going to bring in, while we watch this pancake cook, our little chef assistant, Alexis, and she's going to tell us a little bit about pancakes. So when do we know it's the right time for us to flip this pancake?
When the bubbles get on top.
Right, so what happens is, while this pancake is cooking, all of that moisture that's in there is evaporating and it's making little bitty bubbles. And when we have bubbles all over the top of the pancake, see how they're popping and popping and popping? Mm-hmm. It'll get nice and dry. We'll see brown edges. And when we have a bubble in the dead center of the pancake and it's covered in bubbles, that'll be the right time for us to flip it. And we're going to flip it using, stay on. Okay, we'll just use this one. Using a steel spatula. And Alexis, are you going to flip this pancake for us?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want Tori to flip it?
I want to.
Not yet. We have to wait until we have all the bubbles and make sure Tori can see. Don't block her view.
Wait a minute.
We want to make sure we've got bubbles all over the pancake, especially in the middle, because we don't want a pancake that's done on the outside but not done on the inside. Alexis, what do you like to put on top of your pancake?
I like to put it on a face.
A face? With what? With whipped cream?
And strawberries.
And strawberries?
And blueberries.
And blueberries? You like a lot of stuff on your pancake. Today we've got maple syrup, we've got some honey, and we have strawberries.
Yay!
Do you like strawberry syrup or maple syrup?
Strawberries.
Strawberry. Is it time to flip this pancake yet? Not yet.
It's almost there.
It's almost there. Now we got a good bubble right there, but we need a good bubble right in the middle of the pancake.
You almost touched it.
I almost touched it, but I didn't touch it, right? But I do have very clean hands.
Me too. I washed my hands.
Okay. It does take a little bit of time.
Yeah, a lot of time.
And that's why it's something that we like to get started before people are really even up, especially before Simone is up, right? Pancakes are usually done.
There she is.
All right, I think I saw a bubble pop in the middle.
Ooh.
There's one.
It was a big, giant bubble.
Okay, I think we're ready. Okay, underneath, lift it all the way up, and
Flip it.
up. That's not too bad, Alexis, but you see how fluffy that is?
It's so fluffy.
Okay, good job. Bye-bye. So there's enough butter in the skillet to cook it on both sides. So by just kind of pushing it around a little bit, we make sure that we use all that good butter up. Now one thing that you'll see is, you see that butter gets pretty dark. And so maybe after every 2 or 3 pancakes, what I like to do is rinse it out so that they don't get the charred taste. And then I'll keep its heat because it's a cast iron skillet, put it right back on, and use about a tablespoon of butter. If maybe about, let's say a nice strong pat of butter for each pancake. And now the pancake is pretty much done at the time that we're flipping it because it's gotten dry on top. It's got all the bubbles, so you know it's been cooked through. So this is really just to get even color on both sides.
Oh, so you don't like press it down?
No, you do not press it down. You don't press down a pancake and you don't press down a burger. Pressing out the pancake gets rid of all of its bubbles, and then also flipping it too much, make it tough. So you flip it only one time. And when you make a burger, you want to flip it only one time, and you don't want to press it down because you're pushing out all those good juices.
Okay, we're talking about pancakes.
I know, I'm just saying. So you just check the bottom of your pancake, make sure that it's got good color, and it's all done.
Voila.
Now, would you like to demonstrate, or would you like to try making one of them?
Sure. Hello, everyone. So we're going to use a pat of butter. Get that going. Alrighty. Then we're going to take our half cup measurement. Just dip it on in there, huh?
That's right, nice and full.
Level it off a little bit. Pour in the center. And according to Alexis, I'm waiting on those bubbles. This is probably the part where it goes wrong for me. But I've learned so much today.
So tell me because you asked the question about pushing it down. Is that something you've done in the past?
Totally. So I think the things that I've done wrong in the past is incorporating my dry ingredients and my wet ingredients without incorporating them with each other first.
Okay.
And yeah, I know about the bubbles, but I totally press down the other side. And then they kind of taste like absolutely nothing. So, you know.
So adding in, and I think the one challenge is have you made from scratch before, or always a mix?
I've tried a couple of different ways.
Okay. Adding a little bit of honey, a little bit of vanilla, or whatever else that you like.
Is not a component that I've had in my pancakes before, so I think that's pretty neat. Just a few things that I've learned today.
And one thing,
I don't always use this cast iron skillet, but I do own one, so it's happening.
There you go.
So, okay, I'm cool with this.
And certain ingredients have a little bit of a sharp taste, so if you ever incorporate a little bit of cinnamon, that's a good decision, but also balance it with a little bit of either honey or brown sugar, because just cinnamon will make it taste a little metallic. So you need something to kind of balance that cinnamon out and bring out its sweet, spicy nature.
Definitely want sweet and spicy. So I'm just waiting on this bubble thing to happen in the middle. Which is probably another component that I'm not good at because I don't know if I'm as patient as Dior and Lexi. But I'm doing it right now.
And the one good thing is, when you talk about patience, is having something else to do. So obviously right now we're focused on making pancakes, but you can be checking on your sausage, checking on your bacon, getting a syrup together if you want to create your own syrup. And Lexi mentioned she likes strawberry syrup. We don't buy strawberry syrup. We get a couple tablespoons of strawberry jam, put about a teaspoon of butter, microwave it for 20 seconds. It becomes pourable, and that's her favorite syrup.
Wow. Is this happening or
That's
no?
perfect.
All right.
Uh-oh.